Hey, what's up, parents? Does your kid have the summer reading blues? I know that was cheesy. But whatever, I'm kind of cheesy sometimes. The summer reading blues, this is a very serious topic. I got a very serious email, and I've had emails like this before. This one is from Kate. Kate, thank you for your email. I appreciate it. Kate, you asked me, you said, do I have any blog posts or discussions about navigating the cluster known as summer reading? First of all, I think I actually did do something, and if so, I will link it in the blog post on my actual blog. So if you're watching this on YouTube, click the blog link, and I'll link it in this blog post. You said, we've had a great summer, and now there are tears, and quote, I hate school, and craziness related to summer reading. I'm so frustrated. Help! Exclamation point. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the summer reading blues. I have 12 things that I'm going to talk about. Number 12 is the most important one, and I'll get to that after the first 11. Number 1, Kate, and parents who are going through similar things with summer reading. Okay, so I take issue with some of the summer homework and summer reading things, not because I don't think it's valuable, because I do think reading is one of the most valuable things in the world, but because they're forcing them to do this stuff on their break, and you've got so many dynamics. I mean, if you have a kid who loves reading, it's no problem, but if you have a resistant reader, it's a completely different story, and it kind of loses track of the point of reading, which is to enjoy it and find value in it. So I'll talk more about that. Number 1, though, if you are dealing with an issue about this, is be proactive. Start early in the summer dealing with this and use a routine. Now, obviously, this doesn't help you now, Kate. This is too late for this issue. But you want to, next summer, you want to start early. Start at the beginning of the summer, get buy-in and ownership from your child, make a reading schedule, and start a routine. Are they going to follow it all the time? Of course not. You're going to have trips coming up. You're going to have days when they just don't feel like it. You're going to have arguments about it. It's just not worth the fight. Either way, try your best to set up a routine and post it. Out of sight, out of mind. Get a routine, post it on the wall, be proactive, and get started like that. You want to start with a routine so there's no decision. No, are you going to read today? They've made the decision in May, I'm going to read on these and these days for this long or this many chapters in this place, and you've already thought it through so that the decision doesn't have to be made. It's just, it's Wednesday, it's 10 a.m., we read from 10 to 11, and that's how it is, or whatever. Next, your child said, I hate. And parents don't want their child to feel that. If your child says, I hate something, that's a strong word. They're having an emotional experience. So what I'm going to suggest to you is don't try to convince them or logic them or tell them to be rational about that hatred. So don't try to convince them to not hate that, but hold space for them and say, tell me about that. Let's unpack that. What do you mean you hate it? And find out what that hate is all about, and really help your child to feel heard and listened to and seen and understood around this. Really try to understand them about and find out what that's about. Now, you don't want them to stay stuck in that hate, obviously, but I'm going to advise you not to give them advice, not to tell them how to feel or how not to feel, but rather try to get them to reframe it on their own. And you might do that by saying, well, what do you like about school? And explore that. Tell them stories from your life. Stories are so powerful for human beings. So tell them stories about how you hated something and found out that it really wasn't. That wasn't the whole picture. That was just a small part of it that you were focusing on, or whatever true stories from your life are relevant. Use parables or stories like that. Like there's the one about feeding the 2 wolves. You can talk about the story about feeding the 2 wolves. Go ahead and look it up on Google, and you can adapt it into, are you going to feed the wolf of hating these things, or look at what you like and what you love? You can draw pictures for them, like a picture of the glass half full and half empty, and do something visual and creative with them to help them reframe it. So anyhow, number 2 was really about not convincing them, but how to hold space so that they can reframe it. Number 3, I want to talk about hate again as a feeling. Hate is a somatic experience. It's a feeling in the body. When they say that, that's because something is going on inside of them. Maybe their stomach tenses, maybe their shoulders tense, maybe their jaw grips, maybe their hands get sweaty and tight. We all have different biomarkers, different ways that we experience stress, but their feeling of hate is something that's actually going on into the body. So learning more about body awareness, learning more about somatic therapies, even if you're not in somatic therapy, learning as a parent about somatics, somatic therapy, somatic experiencing EMDR, brain spotting, things like this, can help your child have greater body awareness. Now, in our culture, we do not tend to have very good body awareness. We will say, I hate, but if I said, well, where do you hate in your body? You would say, I don't know. But if I got to know you and spend some time with you, we could try to break down, oh, well, my stomach gets tight. My jaw gets tight when I feel this thing called hate, and so on and so forth. But try to learn about body awareness and bringing your child into their body. That separates them from the story and the narrative. That was number 3. Number 4, I'm going to talk about the narrative. Okay, so you sort of have this bodily sensation, but why? Because you have a story in your head. And the story is a story that feels threatening. The story feels unsafe. Saying I hate reading really isn't about reading. It's really about saying I'm associating reading with feeling bad about myself, with feeling bored, with feeling forced to sit in a seat doing something that I'm not interested in, with reading. You know, there's more under the surface. But what is their story, their narrative that's going on in their head? Whatever the story is, they're feeling threatened the story in their head is that they're being threatened, that they're unsafe. They feel emotionally unsafe, parents. You have to understand this. So when they're having that story in their head that this is unsafe for me, it's not just I hate reading, it's I feel unsafe doing this. What's that story about? Well, and that story is hitting the amygdala. The amygdala is hearing, oh my gosh, I'm unsafe. The amygdala, small part in the brain, doesn't know that it's a story. It just says, okay, we're unsafe. I've got this. And the amygdala sends a signal to the adrenals, which sends adrenaline to the heart, which sends adrenaline in the muscular system so that kids are ready for fight, flight, or freeze. And they're now in anxiety, okay? Their nervous system is now saying we're unsafe, and their brain now is reaffirming the story. See, this thing is bad. It's unsafe. I hate this. And it's sort of the cycling loop between the nervous system and the story, nervous system and the story. And if you don't change that story, then they can get stuck in that, and they can be someone who really struggles with anxiety and depression for years and years and years. So you really want to work on the narrative in the story and help them learn to listen to the story and reframe it. And so look up reframing stories and reframe it to really, what do you like about school? What are you grateful for? What do you appreciate? What are you thankful for? What is good? No, this is not easy, parents. The nervous system is holding on to that story hard. These are neural pathways that they've been working on for a long time. They don't just vanish, but it's a practice you have to start doing. And this gets me to, I'm going to skip one. I'm going to skip actually to the one called modeling. You as a parent, when you model that you are looking at the glass as half empty, and when you model for your kid drama and your own narratives and stories of anxiety and fear in any area of life, but you're modeling that to them, they're learning from that. So it comes back to, what are you modeling for them too? And can you change your own frames on things if you do that? But most of us human beings tend to do that. The brain, it's really easy to go to that negative place. So anyhow, that was about reframing the narrative. Next, number 5, try not to answer for them. Use wait time. And what that means is when they say, I hate this, our response as adults is we don't want them to feel that. So we're going to say, oh, you shouldn't say hate, or oh, don't feel that way. We're telling them how not to feel. Oh, just think of it positively. Oh, you want them to get ownership and buy-in, but you want to unpack that. You don't want to answer for them and just react and say, oh, well, you shouldn't feel that way, or let them feel their feelings. But what I want to tell you is use wait time. So when they say, I hate school, I hate reading, or whatever, use wait time and pause. Don't say the first thing that wants to come out of your mouth. Give some awkward silence, some space. Once they say that and you pause and you give some space and you give a little gap there, then and wait for them to see what comes out of their mouth next, you're going to hear another level. And often as adults, we don't use wait time for that next level. But sometimes when we wait and open that space and we don't say anything and we don't interrupt and tell them what they should think or answer for them, then they will say something that's really insightful if we wait long enough. Something that really gives us as adults an open door to really see what's underneath it and to really find a better solution. So that's next. Don't answer for them. Use wait time. Number 6, read with them. And this goes definitely for dads too. Most of my followers are moms. I actually just heard yesterday from somebody who's saying how dads oftentimes don't get involved in this stuff enough. Dads, read with your kids. You're going to model for them that it's important to you. But parents, either way, moms and dads, read the story with them. Even if they're a middle or high schooler, you can sit down and read it with them to get the ball rolling, to get them into the story. Oftentimes I talk about the first 3 chapters of a book and how a lot when a kid rushes into the first 3 chapters, they're not soaking it in. And it's so important to do that early reading in a very slow, intentional way to really grasp what's going on in the book. So if you have a reader who's not a strong reader, they're often going to skim through that and they're not reading. They're just looking at words on a page. There's a difference between reading and looking at words on a page. They're not soaking it in. But read with them. Make it fun. Make it a thing. Have food around it. Talk about it. Get excited about it. Get them to have ownership and buy-in in the process. Find a special place in the house, a cozy place. Ask them, where do you want to read? What do you want to be doing when you read? Okay, get ownership and buy-in. Do you want to have, should we get, some sparkling water or some orange juice or cookies or what, again, even if it's a high schooler, like make it a thing. Get some ownership and buy-in, read with them. Now, next one, number 7, is read alongside them. So you're reading your own thing while they're reading their thing. So if you're reading alongside them, you're showing them that you value reading. If you're saying you got to read and make them sit down and read and you go do your own thing, you're not modeling that you value reading. Now, if they see you reading all the time, and that's something that you do and enjoy for fun anyway, then you're modeling that you value that and they see it. But you want to think about that. You want to model it for them that you find value in it. And so do it alongside them was number 7. Number 8, ask what would it take? So say to them, all right, cool. You hate reading. You don't want to do it. What would it take for you to like it? What would it take for you to start this chapter? What would it take for you to get to not feel so much anger towards reading? What would it take for you to not feel like you hate school or you hate reading? What would it take? So that you can use that question starter with many different forms. What would it take? Number 9, chunk it down. Part of why somebody would say I hate reading is because they're overwhelmed and it feels so big. They're holding a book. It's a 200-page book that just feels huge. It feels overwhelming. It feels like it's going to take a lot of time. That overwhelm again comes into the human body, the nervous system. The body is feeling something somatically. They're feeling the resistance. They're feeling gripping in their body. Their muscular system is ready for fight, flight, or freeze. Okay. How do you get the nervous system to feel more comfortable with that? Like it just feels so big and overwhelming. Well, you make it feel less overwhelming by shrinking it down. You chunk it down. You chunk in 2 ways, by time and by task. Okay, I can't read this whole book. It's 200 pages. Cool. Can you read a chapter? No, that's too much. Cool. Can you read a page? No, that's too much. Cool. Can you read a paragraph? No. Can you read a word? No. Can you read a letter? Yes. That's kind of a joke, but I say that a lot. Start where you have to start. Chunk it down as small as you need to so that it doesn't feel overwhelming anymore. Okay, you need to read for an hour. No, that's too much. Okay, cool. Can you read for half hour? No. 15 minutes? No. 5 minutes? No. 3 minutes? No. 1 minute? Yes. Let's start there. You have to understand this is about the nervous system. That they have a story that's making them feel, making their nervous system go crazy, like this is a threat. You have to shrink that so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Help them chunk. That was number 9. Chunk it down by time or by task. 10. Mom, Kate, you said, I'm so frustrated. I know you are. And I do take that very seriously. And I know that you're trying to help your child do what they need to do. Try and help them execute this executive function, but they are not initiating. They're not executing. They're not doing the task that they need to do that's in their own best interest because it's their assignment. One thing that I would say to you parents also is you're so frustrated, make sure that you are self-regulating, that you have self-care, that you're taking care of your own nervous system, that you're regulated, that you're not activated when you're talking about this. No, you got to do this. Blah, blah, blah. That's nervous system talking to nervous system, not a rational person talking to a rational person, or a rational person talking to an irrational person. The stronger nervous system is going to win. If both of your nervous systems are dysregulated, you're not going to get very far with your child. So make sure your nervous system is regulated. Work on yourself with your journaling, your meditation, your self-calming techniques, your fitness, making sure you're getting good sleep, your self-care, whatever you need to do to self-regulate yourself. That was number 10. Number 11, executive decisions. Know that sometimes as a parent, you get to make the executive decision. You have to pick your battles. So you're in a situation where the school said your child has to read this book or these pages or these books or choose from these books. Well, you have to pick your battles. You might change the book. Your child might, maybe they are supposed to read a new book, but you know that they have a book that they love. You might have them reread an old book. Even though that's not what the assignment says, you have to make an executive decision and say, look, my kid will actually practice reading with this book that they already know they like. Or this book just isn't working, my kid hates it. We're going to read another one that's similar in some way that they'll actually have buy-in for. Or with executive decision, watch the movie first or watch some YouTube reviews to get them more interested. Or drop the book altogether and get internet articles or magazines that they will read. So they won't read the book, but at least you can get them reading. And finally, number 12, most important of all. This is really about your child's relationship to the act of reading. This is about your child's relationship to reading. The most important thing, in my opinion, that we can do when it comes to a child with reading is help them fall in love with reading, or at least like it, and find value in reading. That is a relationship. The relationship. Your child's relationship at this point with reading is, I hate reading. Imagine somebody saying, I hate this human being, okay? And that relationship between them and this other human being is tense. They don't want to be with that person. That's what they're having with reading. I hate reading. I don't want to be with reading, okay? It's about the relationship with reading. So, you want your child to have a good, healthy relationship with reading. You want them to find value in reading, and you want them to enjoy reading. And often we're having them read in ways where they're not finding value and they're not enjoying it. And then you have a situation where your child says, I hate reading. How do we get to that point in the first place? Well, often because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and they're doing what the teacher's telling them to do. And sometimes teachers don't see it, or teachers lose sight of it, or whatever, but teachers are saying, you're supposed to do this. This is the assignment. Do what I tell you. And they lose sight of, hey, this is about enjoyment. If your child finds value in reading and enjoys reading, they will get the skills. And oftentimes teachers are too focused on the skills. Okay, the skills will come. It's more important that they enjoy it, and the skills will eventually come. If they enjoy it and find value in it, I don't care how slow they read. I don't care how perfectly they read. It will get better. But if they grow up and they have value in it, then they are able to read anything with skill for the rest of their life, which means that doors open for them. Reading is such an important tool for human beings in terms of being able to learn something. We read to learn and to grow. And when that door is open for us and we find value in it and we enjoy it, we can learn anything in the world that we want to learn, because the secrets to the world are in books, to careers, to everything. So, again, there's so many benefits to reading. Have that talk with them about why is this important, because it opens doors for you. Reading is one of the most important skills you can have in life. Okay, so you talk to them about this, have this discussion with them. I want you to have a good relationship with reading. What's it going to take to have a better relationship with reading? How can we do this? How can I support you? How can I help you to have a better relationship with reading? Again, parents, the most important thing is that your child has a good relationship with reading, where they value and appreciate reading and where they like it. Okay. So now, if your kid is saying, I hate it, that's a huge change. That's the real thing that you're trying to change, is that relationship. And I left that for last because, in a way, it's the hardest. It's the most overwhelming. All of the other things are great tips, but how do you get them to actually like it? How do you get them to read things that they find value in? So I hope that helps with the summer reading blues. I went into a lot of depth on that. I just thought of those 12 things and put them out there for you, Kate, and parents and teachers. I know a lot of you are watching this as well. Sorry, my brain is kind of fried today. But I hope that helps you, and I hope that as the school year starts, you're able to manage reading in such a way where they can have those experiences that build the happy, healthy, secure relationship with reading, so that they can have that tool as a lifelong tool. All right, guys, have a great day.